Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to this episode of Nadiya Shah Productions. I am your host, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. There comes a point in every practice as an astrologer when you move beyond the point of beginner. You move beyond the cookbooks, as we call them. You move beyond looking up what every single aspect means or what it could mean and looking up every single definition that someone else has conceived, and you move into the realm of intermediate. And this is where you've already got the basics of the technique down, and now you are deepening your practice. You're reaching a place where you're developing a deeper respect for your practice. Any one of us who has entered that rare and cherished realm of intermediate to advanced astrologer or astrological student knows the name Geoffrey Cornelius. His book, The Moment of Astrology, is groundbreaking. It encourages astrologers to look at what we do philosophically and with a deeper reverence for our history. It is a deeply philosophical text, beautifully written, and one of those works that you know is going to be around for centuries to come. I was lucky enough to learn from Geoffrey for an entire year. I know it was a year that changed the direction of my life and gave me a reverence for astrology that I hadn't fully grasped before, but will undoubtedly stay with me for the rest of my life. And I am sure that there are so many other people out there who feel exactly the same way. So studying with Geoffrey, learning from Geoffrey for a full year, there was one thing that I came to learn was that he really does not like to be complimented, at least not while he's in the room. And that's really okay. He's got this humility, but he's also got this deep respect for learning, for the academic environment, and it makes him really inspiring, and it makes his work really important and the kind that changes the person who reads it. It is such a dream come true for me, a vision come true, to celebrate with you, my dear professor, Geoffrey Cornelius.
But if you had to provide a synopsis, what would you say? What are the main assertions you're making here?
I'm a traditionalist, and yet I find myself being quite subversive in relation to the classical astrological tradition, because I question some of the assumptions that have been part of the tradition. Those assumptions have really stopped astrology properly engaging with great spiritual disciplines and with poetry and many other parts of society, because there is contained in the models that astrologers often have worked with a rather limited or deterministic attitude. So that makes me sound quite radical, which is therefore something of a paradox, but perhaps astrologers often are paradoxical. So that's what I set out to do in the book, to raise these questions. And some of the most important questions really come from what's the nature of time itself, and whether we think we live in a universe that runs by a clock time, tick, 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 next moment, next moment, next moment, or whether we live in a universe where strangely, consciousness works together with time and space, and what happens to us is in some play and in a negotiation. So one of the key principles that I try to bring forward in the book, which is based on very ancient understandings, it's not, I haven't made it up, but it comes through in the phrase, destiny is negotiable, which is a phrase I love from...
Destiny is negotiable.
Now, it doesn't mean one does successfully negotiate it. Very often you don't pull through the negotiation, but it's there and it's open for you. Many people think that that's something naive about that when people pray to gods and they ask for the gods' blessing on things. But the gods come to life when human beings recognise the gods. We're reciprocal with the gods anyway. They need us and we need them, because this is the world of spirit and the world of matter have to work together. And we're free to choose. We're free to choose spiritual things as well. And there's something in the universe that will work with us if we do that. That's why what happens in our isn't completely fated. Many things we set down at certain moments in our lives, the decisions we take, do fate us for a number of years forward. We normally are the ones who bind ourselves into situations. We come into this world, of course, already bound, but as Plato teaches, we've even chosen that before the moment of birth, and that's a great mystery. But even so, we come into this world with our physical condition, with being male or female, and all these things. So you could say, well, isn't that determined for you? But at every point therein, you choose that which to do with your the gifts that have been given to you. Since we're all granted this moment, this instant of consciousness, every single moment of it produces a gift of choice. A very important teaching from antiquity, and it was expressed in Modern Astrology by Alan Leo. He loved this phrase: character is destiny. How you decide these things each moment begins to shape the destiny that will occur. And you see it in practical life. You see it where we know it for ourselves, where we set ourselves in a certain frame that will really have a quite inevitable consequence, and others can see it, and we're often blind to it ourselves. Well, astrology is a pretty good way of indicating to you ways in which you might be cheating yourself and not properly looking at how you're setting up the situation to produce inevitable consequences. And you say, oh dear, how did that terrible thing happen to me? Well, you've been setting it up for some years to go that way. There's a lot of that in our lives. That's why I love to think of it as something that's open to our negotiation. Even the great things of fate, how we then respond to them is the key to what good fortune we then have afterwards.
Thank you so much, Geoffrey.
Thank you.
I
Nadiya.
wish I could go back to school again and again,
Yes.
a million times over, but I do have Geoffrey's book, The Moment of Astrology. As I said, it stands out on its own. And once you move beyond the beginning stages of astrology, once you have read this book, you can call yourself an intermediate student or an advanced student. It's that type of consideration, and very, very special to read. Thank you for being here to celebrate Geoffrey Cornelius with me. Until we connect again, take care.
Astrology's biggest stars are right here. Nadiya Shah Productions, new episodes every Thursday.